As many of you may know, I used to produce videos for the channel Electroheads, and one of my favourite cars that I spent time with was the Polestar 2. In fact, I put together a video of the previous generation car of 9 reasons you should buy a Polestar 2. So if you're looking at the older generation, then why don't you click the link up there and maybe you'll find it helpful. But if you're looking at the latest facelifted version of the Polestar 2, then that's what today is all about. I can't believe I've never had a Polestar on this channel. Hopefully it's the start of a few because I do really like the brand. You know that I love the quality and just that solid feel that you get with Volvo, and then Polestar just adds that electric luxury. It's definitely a match made in heaven and one of my favourite electric cars. But is it still as good as it's always been? Of course, it's been a couple of years since I last drove a Polestar, and in between that time I've driven a lot of other electric products. So is it still as good as it's ever been? Well, considering it now goes further, it's more efficient, and also the performance variant, which is the model that I have here, has up to 469 brake horsepower with a 0 to 62 time of just 4.2 seconds. I think I'm going to like it. Hi guys, I'm Tish and welcome back to my channel Auto Social UK. In today's video, I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Polestar 2 and whether it's still one of the top electric cars that I recommend. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. If you like new car reviews and car content, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So first of all, before we talk about some of the external and internal changes for the latest generation, why don't I tell you about what they've done to the battery and also the charging? The Polestar 2 is available in 4 different versions. So the entry level is the standard range single motor, and this is actually the only one that features a 69 kilowatt hour battery. You then have a long range single motor, a long range dual motor, and a long range dual motor fitted with a performance pack, and these all have a larger 82 kilowatt hour battery. All 4 of these models, however, do get the next generation electric motors and also the inverters, which were introduced around the beginning of 2024, end of 2023, and these boost both efficiency and performance. And even the least powerful standard range single motor now delivers a power output of 268 brake horsepower and 361 pound-feet of torque, and that allows it to accelerate from 0 to 62 in just 6.4 seconds. So definitely not slow. The long range single motor offers a little bit more power at 295 brake horsepower, and that gets to 62 in 6.2 seconds. And in comparison, the long range dual motor that packs 416 brake horsepower will do the 62 in 4.5 seconds, and this one, which has the performance pack, well, that boosts it to 469 brake horsepower, and that will sprint from the 0 to 62 in just 4.2 seconds. So this is the one to have for keen drivers. Range estimates vary between these models, of course, with the standard range single motor offering 321 miles, and then you have the long range single motor which gets the most amount of range, so that's 406 miles. However, that 406 miles does sound a little bit optimistic. Although I've had the performance pack version, it has been efficient, but not as efficient as I would have hoped. Then again, I am around 2 degrees, so definitely not the best weather for EVs. In the most recent update, they also increased the amount of charge that the Polestar 2 can accept. Go for the standard range model and it can now accept up to 135 kilowatts. However, in this long range model that I have, it can actually accept up to 250 kilowatts. That means that a full charge on the go can be done from as little as 30 minutes when charging from 20%. But what about at home? A 7 kilowatt charger will get you a full charge on your Polestar 2 in around 10 to 11 hours. If you did have a home charger, then did you know that you could earn a little bit of money from your wall box? Let me tell you how. Today's video is sponsored by Juice Up, a clever app that lets you rent out your home charger to other drivers via a friendly online community, making a little money back. But not just that.
As a member, you also have access to affordable and reliable EV charging in places where public chargers may be unavailable. It works both ways. And with promo code AUTOSOCIAL, you can enjoy 180 days free with no service charges. So download Juice Up via the link in the description box for iPhone and Android and electrify your journeys.
They haven't messed with the fundamental design of the Polestar 2, which I'm really pleased about, because I love the way that this car is very sleek and simple, but it's also impactful and stylish. And they've done that with lots and lots of just simple lines and edges. I think this is an extremely good looking car, one of my favourite electric cars. I like that boxy stance that it has, but once again, it's just extremely stylish looking. I also like the fact that you've got the body coloured Polestar badge on the front. It just adds to that simplicity. And I also love the way that they've managed to add just tiny little Easter eggs of writing all over this car and not make it look messy. It's a really, really good way of kind of making it personalised and just having those tiny elements around the car. So on the front here, you've got just below this camera, you've got mid-range radar, so that's explaining the radar systems. And then you've got this lovely little white badge. I feel like this may be contrasting as to whether people like it, but I quite like it. I think it looks quite trendy. It reminds me of those Pantone paint swatches, which I know a lot of people actually have in their house as artwork. And then that says Polestar engineered, which is really nice. And then just inside of these lights, which are very similar daytime running lights to what you get on the Volvo products. So I know they call that the Thor's hammerhead lamp. Not too sure what it's called on Polestar, but I love the simple flowing look that actually tends to match together with this gloss black element just lower down in the bumper. It mirrors it, which I think is a really clever way of having really stylish elements. And then inside of these lights, you'll just see in there Polestar Pixel technology, which I think is really lovely. The wheels are extremely impactful. So this is the high power version. So you do have those peek through gold brake calipers, which are Brembo brake calipers, and then they have Polestar written on them. You've got contrasting gloss black and also the chrome wheels in quite a busy spoke design, but I think it works well. You've got these simplistic, really lovely frameless door mirrors. And then just on this door sill, you've got written Polestar 2, 82 kilowatt hour and 350 kilowatts, so the power and also the battery. I would have liked that to have been the brake horsepower, because I think more people recognise brake horsepower than kilowatts, but it's an electric car, so it's all about the electric bits. And then I also like the fact that with the Polestar 2 you get proper door handles that actually open like proper door handles as well. So none of this kind of hidden and pop out. I just think it's complicating things, and they sometimes don't work, and they're a little bit fiddly to use, and you always have to explain them to people. These are just proper door handles, and I think they're really, really lovely. Now, even the best cars have a few negatives, and two of those are around the back. Firstly, there's no rear wiper. I've seriously not found it a single issue whilst driving this car, but there are brands like Hyundai on the Ioniq 5 who have now gone back on adding a rear wiper to their cars, as many customers find it essential. So let me know what you think down below. And the other irritating thing is where the boot latch is. Now, you can do it off of the key, which would possibly be the best thing, but it's all the way down here near the number plate. And as you can see, it's really mucky at the moment, so that's all horrible. And then the boot latch is just here. That's where the negatives end, because actually there's lots of positives inside the boot. So inside of here you get 405 litres of space. And as you can see at the moment, I've got a little configurable area here. So this is a little bottom of the boot separator which lifts up, and then that separates the boot so things don't roll around. And you've got a couple of hooks on there. You've got a strap to be able to tie things down. That is so super handy. You've also got a couple more straps on the side. You've also got 12-volt charging. And then there is a ton of storage space underneath this boot floor, even more. And if that's not enough space, there's also some underneath the bonnet too.
Here you'll have access to a further 35 litres. That's enough for your charging cables or items you don't reach for regularly, because you still have to unhook the bonnet like you would on a standard ICE car.
The redesigned Polestar 2 had several enhancements compared to its predecessor when it comes to the way that it drives, and these positively influence its handling. Actually, the previous generation car I always found to drive very solidly and be quite good to drive, but this has kind of made it even more engaging, and I think that's going to be great for the keener driver. Probably the average person won't notice it, but if you want to push it hard, it's had some enhancements which have made it even better. In an interesting turn of events, the single motor variants have actually shifted from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive, and the dual motor models also are rear wheel drive biased. So I know those that love a BMW will be pleased to hear that. Although that flip from front wheel to rear wheel may seem minor for many people, it's actually significantly enhanced the driving experience, especially with the single motor cars, because of course the dual motor is always going to have your back in slippery conditions, but the rear wheel drive on the single motor now really feels like you're being pushed rather than pulled, and I can imagine that that's made quite a difference to the feeling of the driving engagement.
Regardless of the model, you can expect a firm ride, which may feel unsettled on rough surfaces. This isn't a major issue, once again, depending on how you're planning on using the car. Enthusiastic drivers might quite like the added feedback, but then there are much smoother family cars. Either way, it's worth testing out during a test drive for yourselves. Overall, the Polestar 2 manages its 2-ton weight impressively, offering a sporty driving experience with controlled body lean. In my opinion, it places it amongst some of the best handling electric vehicles out there.
Whilst boot and front space is extremely practical on the Polestar, it does have negatives, and the negatives is the space in the rear. Unfortunately, there's a massive transmission tunnel, and that may seem strange because this is an electric car. Why have a transmission tunnel? But you see, this is actually based on an ICE platform from Volvo, which I think is a real shame. It means that that middle seat becomes a little bit useless when carrying 3 taller people in the back because you'll be struggling for legroom. But let's face it, if you're buying a car like this, then you're probably not going to be carrying 5 people in the car much of the time. And if you need a larger car, then there are the bigger versions of the Polestars from the brand. Practicality exceeding that, however, is pretty good. You'll find plenty of legroom and lots of headroom as well. I'm nice and comfortable in the back here. Amenities are pretty good. So I have got rear ventilation, and I've also got heated seats and USB-C charging. There's also nets on the backs of the seats, somewhere to pop a cup in the door, and you'll also find a pull-down armrest with a couple of cup holders as well. Overall, it's a pretty good place to spend time, as long as it's not really long journeys and you don't have overly tall people sitting in the back. I think you all know me well enough by now to know that this is exactly how I'd spec my Polestar 2. I love this interior. So you've got this really soft light grey leather, and then you have the kind of contrasting embellishment in these little perforated dots on the seats. They're simple but very impactful. What's not simple and definitely impactful is these gold seat belts. These might be a bit garish for some people, but I think these are fantastic, and I love the way that they blend together with those brakes. I think these feel really cool, and they definitely just give you that hint of the car's performance. Now, when it comes to layout, it's a mixed bag. There's things I like and there's things I don't like. But what I will start by saying is a few of the things that I thought I didn't like and that I disliked about this car, it turns out it was user error. I know, you're all very shocked. I think I've said this on a couple of occasions where there's been things I've moaned about, and then everyone says, Tish, there's a really simple fix for that. Now, one of these things was the mirrors. From the outside, I did say I had an issue with the mirrors, and that was the fact that they didn't fold down when you're reversing to be able to see the curbs. Turns out I just didn't have it switched on. So I've switched that on now on the infotainment system, and they do dip when you're reversing, which is great. The next thing I was going to moan about was when you go into reverse, it brings up your rear camera. So that's the one facing backwards, using that little camera just above the number plate. Now, what I find frustrating is this is the worst camera the Polestar has. It's got dirt all from the road on it, and it's just not a particularly helpful view. It's also not really great at all in terms of what you can see. Now pop it into drive, and the 360 camera is brilliant. Why doesn't the 360 camera come on when you're reversing? Now, this frustrated me, and a lot of people pointed out on a Volvo video that there is quite an easy hack for this, and you simply just have to click the 360 view, and then that changes the view from the rear back onto the 360. But I just feel like when you go into reverse, that should be the main view anyway. So those are two of my complaints, which have then been answered quite quickly. And the third was, I couldn't believe that this car had ventilated seats, heated seats, a 360 camera, a Harman Kardon sound system, and no automatic headlights or automatic high beam assist. I thought that was a bit stingy. Turns out I just didn't have it switched on. So on the back here, you have your lights, auto lights, and then you have one more to flick up to auto high beam assist. So flick that up and then that'll pop them on, or flick it again and it will turn them back off. I didn't realise this, and I just thought it didn't have them. So that's brilliant. It now has that as well, which was one other thing I found frustrating. So that's all the positives of this car that I thought were negatives, but actually turns out they're all positives because it has all of this spec I didn't think it had. So let's talk about some things that it definitely doesn't have, that it can't be fixed with a simple kind of mix around with the settings, and that's storage. This car, once again, is based on an ICE platform, and disappointingly that means you have a huge centre console. For me, I'm quite small, so it's no issue, but I have heard lots of people say that actually their knee bangs on this side of the centre console, which is a shame. And also, it's just pants storage. You've got a couple of like little storage slots down the sides, but it's such a waste of space. And then here in the centre, you've got one cup holder, and then you've got the armrest storage, which is just completely taken up by a second cup holder. It just seems like such a waste of space. And if you do want to use that cup holder, you have to pop that armrest back, and then you don't have an armrest. It's just a little bit of a shame for what is such a cool, good car. It just doesn't seem particularly practical in these senses, but I will look at the target audience of this car, and I do think that this is a commuting company car. You're going to be driving it with one person, maybe two people occasionally, and for that, I think this car is absolutely brilliant, and the quality is unmatched. I love this light leather, as I said, but I also like all the textures as well. You've got this nice kind of soft material across the dashboard, and then you've got the light bleached wood underneath, and just everything is really soft touch as well. Even this is not plastic, it's all covered, so it feels really nice. I like the steering wheel, it feels very stealthy. You've got the black Polestar badge on the front of that wheel, and then you've got just some lashings of chrome, but actually not too much chrome, just in really nice places which make it feel premium. You've got a little bit of gloss black, but it's not particularly offending me because it's in areas that you don't really touch. Overall, I think this is a beautiful cabin that is flawed slightly if you want to spend time with it as a family car. As soon as I saw this car be dropped off, and I noticed that sleek design, those simple elements, the frameless door mirrors, and then those lovely gold brakes and matching seat belts, I knew that I was going to love this next generation of Polestar 2. I always loved the Polestar, and I was worried that with other electric vehicles bringing out so many different options, it wouldn't be able to hold its ground in a very crowded market. But its simplicity means that even as time goes by, it's still able to be a really solid option. Sure, there are things that I find frustrating with this car, but overall it's a fantastic electric product and still one of my firm favourites. But let me know, what do you think of the Polestar 2? Is it one of your favourite electric cars? Would you have this over a Tesla, or would you go for the Tesla to have that superior charging network? Let me know in the comments down below. I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. And don't forget, if you want to start earning money from your home charger, then make sure you click the link in the description box and sign up to Juice Up today. Until next time, guys, see you later.